Thanks so much, guys. I was back there with the governor getting ready to ask that question. Yeah, by the way, Bruce just wrote a book called Metropolitan Revolution, which you should all read, just came out, so he's really talked about this in great detail. Please come in, these aisles do allow people to get down into those seats in the middle, so fill in. We're really excited to have the governor joining us now. And, you know, this is a guy who really has done things differently. He won in a landslide victory in 2011, and during his campaign, promised to create an environment where small businesses could grow and create jobs, pledged to balance the budget without using accounting gimmicks. And he actually understood what he was talking about because he's a business guy. It's unusual for an American politician. As a governor, he's eliminated the Michigan business tax. He's also eliminated the state's $1.5 billion deficit. So he's a local state guy, undergraduate degree, MBA, and law degree from University of Michigan. He was a tax accountant at Coopers & Lybrand. Then he joined Gateway Computer when I met him way back when, helped it grow to 10,000 employees. Then he became a venture capitalist. So, Governor Snyder, please come out and join me. We're so pleased to have you here. Thanks a lot. So you told me backstage you are a geek, which...
Oh, a nerd.
A nerd,
yes.
Sorry. Okay, you said nerd. Those words.
Geeks and nerds are cousins, but
That's
I'm a nerd.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Nerd is good. And you know, there aren't many nerds in American politics, and I wish there were more. You know, I just wanted to ask you what you think about our premise, because Techonomy's whole mindset is that technology is at the center of business and social progress, but that it is not sufficiently understood, particularly by leaders globally, and here at this conference, particularly by leaders in the United States. And we really want to push for more people to embrace technology as a tool for progress. How do you think about that?
No, well, I appreciate that. Being a good nerd, I love that premise. What I would say is the context I would go with that is it's also taking technology and an understanding of human nature. Because quite often human nature doesn't evolve the way technology does.
Right.
And it's really how to merge those two and bring them together in some combination that's really effective. One thing that I've looked at in the past that I try to follow along is the adoption curve concept. Quite often when you come up with new ideas and you're introducing something, technology would allow you to go at a very rapid pace. But in some cases, you have to appreciate that people take some time to get used to a concept. So that's where I come back to the concept of early adopters, fast followers, most people being in the middle, and then some people that tend to lag behind. And it's really how to merge those two worlds together. So the way I like to describe it, when I look at personally, when I go out and read, I'll read a lot of futuristic stuff, but I also read a lot of history, because I'm looking to the human nature element of history to go with future tech trends.
Well, you're actually dovetailing with our opening session on education where we had John Covington, and we were talking about technology and education. And one of the things we spent some time talking about is STEM is critical, but you can't leave the humanities out because you need people to know how to think who don't forget to read history. So, and by the way, what Covington is doing is amazing. I really credit you guys with really rethinking what needs to happen. I just hope you can extend that further. And while mentioning that, do you hope that this approach that's been started at the very bottom where the schools are in the greatest crisis is an attitude that could really spread throughout the state and even the country?
Well, what I'd say is I don't think it should require to look at the schools at the bottom. There's no reason that any school shouldn't look at embracing student-centered learning. I think by doing it at the bottom, hopefully that creates a case to really say it's a compelling empirical case of evidence to say you've taken kids that have had the worst situation and now they're performing very well. But it's something that should go across the spectrum. So one thing I'd like to see with the Educational Achievement Authority is the EAA is not intended to be a massive school district or a system of schools across the state, but hopefully it's a place of innovation where traditional school districts could start doing student-centered learning and they could learn from one another and start getting a synergy of continuous improvement. I really like the concept of open source student-centered learning is what it really should evolve to, because it is a revolution in education that I think is extremely exciting and a great opportunity, and I think is the future of education. I like to call it the 4 any's. Any place, any time, any pace, any way.
That sounds good.
Well, I was told I'm supposed to be feeling pretty cheeky today.
Well, the cheekier the better is good for us. Believe me, we like attitude, especially in politicians who actually understand something. That's what I'm so excited to find a politician who actually has some understanding. I'm not a big optimist about American politicians when it comes to what we call the techonomy. So,
well, that's one reason I ran for office, though.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, if you looked at it, I believe we have, in many ways, a broken political culture in our country, and that there are better ways to do it. And the point is instead of just complaining about it, if you really believe something's broken, I was in a position in life where I could make a commitment to say, I can't solve it all myself, but at least hopefully there's an illustration of doing it a different way. And the easiest illustration is a phrase many people here have heard is relentless positive action, which means I don't blame anyone, I don't take credit, I don't fight with anyone. What's the problem? What's the solution? Because if you look at it, it's obvious that we've polarized our political environment with people fighting all the time, and fighting or blame doesn't solve anything. So, in particular, I'm proud of the fact that I think I have a pretty good track record of I don't believe I fight with anyone. Here's the problem, here's the solution, let's get it done.
More power to you, baby, I gotta say. I just hope you keep repeating that and keep doing what you're doing, because the country needs a lot more of that thinking.
RPA.
So, let's just go straight to the thing that came up toward the end of that last session about Detroit. I mean, I want to hear you talk about a bunch of things, but, Bruce was saying the thing he would say to you is don't spread financing like peanut butter over the state. Obviously, that's not entirely possible, but doubling down on what's changing in Detroit. How can the state follow that advice, and where do you see Detroit going forward from here?
Yeah, I think Detroit, well, it's interesting. I just came back from China, and one of the big things that came up, the Chinese ask over and over again, what about Detroit? So I said there are 2 critical points that people really need to realize. First of all, the concept of going bankrupt, again, I didn't want to end up there, but we're there. It's really, this is the time to solve problems. So this isn't about a new problem arriving. This is dealing with 60 years of accumulated problems.
And admitting you got a problem.
And really being honest about it instead of ignoring it and letting it build up. So that's point one. The second one is the comeback of Detroit has started several years ago. And because quite often people would say, well, after the bankruptcy, is the city going to come back? And that's backwards. The comeback has already been going on outside of the municipal government, outside of the public sector. It's already been going on with the private sector. You had Dan Gilbert here. I mean, how much has he invested in Detroit? The total investment is about $10 billion. In Midtown, downtown, the riverfront over the last few years, there's about 12,000 jobs that have come in Detroit. A lot of these young people are living in Detroit now. The comeback is going on in spite of the way government was operating. When we get government operating to get better services to citizens, think about the opportunity. That's really exciting. That's really cool. So I appreciate the comment that Bruce made the last time. The only thing, I would modify it. I don't think it was complete from my perspective. He talked about investing in Midtown and downtown. I don't want to forget the neighborhoods.
Right.
I don't think that would be right. We need to include the neighborhoods of Detroit.
Okay. I have a question on my list, how to connect the islands, because one of the things I'm continually struck with in Detroit is there are these amazing things, like this neighborhood is very intact, very vital with the DIA, et cetera, in Wayne State, but then, it's not far away, there's just like burned out buildings. How do we think about, and then Corktown, this cool little neighborhood, but it's like you take 3 steps away and you're in like outer space. What is going to happen to connect these islands? How can you incorporate the whole city in this revival?
Well, one of the things that is, again, a case of the work, that work's been done largely. Is it complete or is it finished? No. But one thing that we should be proud of that people forget is, again, I'm highly involved in Detroit as governor of Michigan, but I'm following a roadmap that was done by Detroiters, which is the Detroit City Future Plan. They spent a lot of time on a great plan, and there's a plan done. So it's not like we're starting from scratch. I have this big book on my desk at Cadillac Place. So if you have a question, you open the book to say, well, this is what the people of Detroit thought was a really good answer. This is what we should be doing. So, I mean, let's recognize that we got a lot of great things done and follow that plan. Okay,
but concretely, you brought this up yourself, bringing in the whole community, the African-American community, not leaving them out as downtown becomes, how is that going to be addressed concretely, and how are you thinking about it? what can we do? What can people like
Right.
Dan Gilbert do?
No, there's to go to that more specifically, David, and it's not just about the neighborhood issue. It really comes down to jobs in many cases. And I'll give you an illustration. One of the exciting things we have going on in Detroit that is more public sector related is we have a couple $1 billion of infrastructure projects that are going in over the next few years. We've got the M1 light rail, we've got a regional transit authority, we've got some Eastern Market projects, we've got a new arena, we've got a bridge. I like this bridge idea in particular, if you didn't know that. Well, we've got this bridge, and for example, the bridge is
Is that funny because you always talk about it? Is that?
Yeah, they get, yeah.
I'm a New Yorker, I didn't know that, but anyway, go.
There's this bridge to Canada. So it's about 3 years out before we start serious construction on the bridge or so, 3 to 4 years. And quite often when you get an infrastructure project, the problem is Detroiters aren't able to be hired because they need additional training in terms of the skilled trades to be ready for it. Here we have a case where we know this bridge isn't going to be there for 3 or 4 years. So now we have a chance to actually do training programs and programs in a thoughtful way. And an interesting part has come out. This is an issue that we're trying to address with the federal government on workforce development. So in the federal government's model, you can only use resources to train people when you say you have a job right today.
Really?
And it's like, that's kind of dumb. You know, we know we're going to have these jobs in 3 years, 4 years, so let's figure out how to use those resources to get them in apprenticeship programs, other development programs, so they can work on the bridge. So that's just one illustration of things we're doing now that previously really hadn't been done to think ahead. To again, those are great jobs.
Is this like community ventures, which Mike Finney was telling me about, which is really kind of a radical new approach to job training?
Well, community ventures, to be open, we just made it up because I said we had to do something for the structurally unemployed.
Quickly talk about what Community Ventures is.
Yeah, Community Ventures is a program that's absolutely geared to say, let's try to find employment for the structurally unemployed, for people that have not had a track record of success working for one reason or another. And let's focus in on saying, let's put 1,000 people to work. And let's learn from that in terms of what the barriers and issues are. And we've got, and these are not make-work jobs. That was the one requirement I had. When I asked Mike to do the program, and he's done a great job, I said the one requirement is this cannot be a short-term make-work job. This has to be a job that's a sustainable job with an organization that makes at least $1, even if they're a nonprofit, to make sure it's sustainable. So that's what it's geared at. We've had great participation from organizations. We've done over 1,000 placements. We have about, you may have gotten the numbers, 880 so people working, about an 87% retention rate so far. We've got more people.
These are people who would have been on the street, a lot of them otherwise.
Yeah, these are, again, people that didn't have a work history. The other part, though, that's really important to go with community ventures longer term is I don't want that to be viewed as a terminal point in terms of their employment career. So the thing is, you get them going in community ventures, and then you say, now can we do more traditional training programs on top to give them a path of upward mobility in terms of work. And so it's really exciting, and it's great. We're having the University of Michigan hopefully track this, because we'd actually like to get this published in a real study, because quite often these programs, people question are they for real or not. I believe this is an awesome opportunity that then we can ramp up. And we have another one that I'm really excited about that can tie into this. It's called MAT Squared. It's Michigan Advanced Technician Training. And this is something we brought back from Germany, from a trade mission, because Germany has probably the best apprenticeship programs in terms of skilled production people of anywhere in the world. But the German model wouldn't work here. They start at like 14 and take a bunch of tests when they're kids. So we've modified it, but we did it with German companies and with Oakland Community College and Henry Ford Community College. It's Michigan Advanced Technician Training, which basically you apply, you get in, you are in this program for 3 years, you're working, you get paid, you come out of it with a community college degree after 3 years, you have a guaranteed job, and you have a work commitment for 2 or 3 years. That's awesome. And it's starting in mechatronics, which is the combination of mechanical and electrical production training. So they're going to be able to run sophisticated machinery. These are going to be great jobs. There are already needs for these jobs out there. And we launched our first class this year. So as this succeeds, we really want to ramp that up and ratchet up. And then that's another great program to look to Detroit and the neighborhoods, along with many other parts of Michigan.
Yeah, but when I was hearing from Mike about community ventures, I realized it's another one like the Educational Achievement Authority. This is something that's really new that I don't hear happening in other parts of the country. The thing I loved about it was not funding the individuals, but funding the organizations that are going to create the jobs. And then he was saying they even like call them in the morning to make sure they wake up to go to work. I mean, they're really hands-on with these people.
Yeah, well, I'll add one thing to that. we do learn a lot. So one of the greatest barriers we learned about that I don't think we appreciated before, because we were having trouble actually getting people in the program. And so we really did work with a lot of people we were talking to, what's the barrier? And it was transportation. It was actually how to get to the training site or how to get to work. So now I view that as
because Detroit has such great mass transit. Sorry.
Yeah, there's another topic. Yes, so that's something else we can work on.
That was supposed to be funny, sorry.
Yeah. In this community, it's a major problem. So we're working on solving that now in terms of how do we get people to the work site.
It's fantastic. Talk a little bit about your trip to China. I mean, I just came back from China. They get tech over there. They also get development. Now, and you have the world's probably the best airport in the United States here in Detroit, very hugely connected to Asia and China. Can the Chinese specifically help Detroit?
Oh, they can do a lot.
What do you think they might be able to do?
Well, I think there's a huge investment opportunity in terms of large-scale investment. One of the other things I'm working on that I'd really like to solve, I had a session here a while ago on that, is immigration, in terms of finding more ways to get more immigration to the United States, in terms of keeping a lot of these bright engineers that are going to like U of M, MSU, this place, Wayne State turns out some great engineers. How do we keep them here and have them do startup companies? Because they're job generators. It's a misunderstanding to think they take jobs, they add jobs. So if you look at that, both from a people point and a dollar investment point, there's a huge opportunity for the Chinese to look to Michigan. And in fact, that was part of my pitch to them regarding Detroit. Detroit is the value place in the United States, in Michigan, and potentially the world in terms of a great value opportunity to say, come and invest now because there's going to be great upside.
Yeah, really. That's a beautiful argument, and I think they're going to get it because they've done things like this in a lot of their own cities.
Well, the one thing
Just
that
don't
we
tear
really,
down the historic stuff like they do over there, because
no, but we need support from the community. That's where we need people to speak up, to be welcoming, to say, would people get excited about the concept of that kind of investment? Because in some cases, there's been a history here of saying we don't want Chinese, it's all bad. We need to work on that mindset to say it's a global economy. Let's embrace investment from other parts of the world, whether it be China or someplace else.
Yeah, and they're a lot of the leaders over there are the kind of people, they're going to look at 10 square blocks of open space, and they're going to figure out a way to fill it with incredible stuff. I mean, they do that in every one of their cities. I want to talk about tech for a minute. We always talk about technology, and generally I tended to cover information tech and internet stuff, but technology is a broader field. You've got an incredible core competency in Detroit and in Michigan in the automotive industry. One of the things the McKinsey report talks about is doubling down on what you're already good at. How do we think of the connection between the auto industry and becoming a tech capital for Michigan and Detroit?
Well, that's a fabulous question, because that's one of the most misunderstood topics out there in many respects when you talk to people. They tend to put autos in a separate silo from information technology, and that's a false premise. That's actually something we need people to get over. Quite often they'll treat autos as the old, they think the Model T assembly line even, let alone a high-tech environment involving robots and all the machinery. One of the highest tech devices out there in terms of using information technology is the auto today. The computing power in an auto is absolutely incredible. And so one of the things we need to get people is to marry and embrace them. And one thing that I'm proud to say that Michigan is the world's leader in the concept of intelligent vehicles. We have the connected vehicle program in the Ann Arbor area with the Department of Transportation, because if you look at smart vehicles are a big part of our future, and that really highlights the thing to say it's about information technology and bringing these all together. The other one is we should be proud. Next September, we're hosting the Intelligent Transportation System World Congress right here in Detroit. So it might overlap well. We're going to get you back.
Next September.
Yeah, next September.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk about that.
And so we're going to have a worldwide audience coming in to talk about intelligent transportation, because we need to embrace that. And one thing we need to work with our young people is get them to recognize they can have a great career in the automotive industry. There's a challenge there today that in many cases people are looking at IT, but they won't look at the auto industry because of prior history or not thinking it's high tech. It absolutely is.
Yeah, it's interesting, there's such an obsession with software too, and hardware really matters, and you guys are pretty good at that.
Well, let me give you one other illustration, just to give some numbers, some context on it, because one thing I mentioned that when I was in China is about $12 billion in an industrial R&D goes on in Michigan each year in the automotive industry. $12 billion of R&D in our state. We account for about 70% of all the R&D for the auto industry right here in Michigan, but $12 billion compared to add up the tech companies and how much are they putting into R&D? $12 billion is a huge number.
It is. Just later today, Prasad Venkatesh from Ford is talking about open innovation, which is a whole new approach that Ford's bringing. Let's see, if we got any questions, can we get the lights up a little bit? We have time for 1 or 2 comments or questions for the governor. Okay, somebody's okay, good. Are you going to go to ask a question? Okay, we'll get to you first, and we'll go to you because you already had one, but start with somebody new. Quickly, identify yourself.
My name is Sergio Rodriguez. I'm a student at Wayne State, undergraduate student.
Awesome.
And,
a student.
Yeah, student. You made a comment about how there's a misconception about immigrants, how they're taking jobs rather than making jobs. I was wondering, is the state of Michigan doing anything right now as far as any kind of immigration reform? Because it seems like everything is being put sort of on stall, and there's not really much going on.
Yeah, we've been a leader in immigration ever since I've been governor. We have a program called Global Michigan to really encourage that, and we've got some great people here in Detroit doing similar kind of work as part of this team. So I would say you can check around. I've got to be among the most pro-immigration governors in the United States in terms of pushing ahead, because I fundamentally believe it's a job creator. If you stop and think about how we have graduate students come in from other countries, and we educate them, we give them world-class educations, and we tell them to get out. That's just dumb. Because in fact, we should be embracing them to say, wouldn't you love an opportunity, and how many times do you hear that? And when it's successful, it really works. I did venture capital before I became governor, and I was doing startups with University Technology, and I had to go through those battles about helping keep people here as researchers. And when they do, it can really be great for our state.
Over here.
Hello, my name is Victoria Bell, and my company is Right Brain Connections, and I'm also a graduate of Wayne State University. This is also home to the Confucius Institute, which was created by my teacher, Lao Shi Yu Ming. And what I'm thinking of is that when you're creating different programs that involve different cultures, maybe a better exchange program where actual families can come in, you might be able to have immigrants that come here for school and education actually stay if some of their family members are allowed to come with them. And that just might be an option for exchange between, like you said, there's $12 billion in the auto industry, so Nanjing, China has a GM headquarters there. So maybe doing some type of exchange for a year or so, or 6 months, or 3 months, might be assisting with helping that out.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. One thing we should be proud of, the Confucius Institute here is great. And in fact, we lead the country in terms of number of Confucius Institutes of any state in the nation. So we should be proud of that. And a lot of it is getting people to go back and forth. I'm proud to say I've got a senior in high school. She's in her 4th year of Chinese.
That's pretty cool. Anybody else? Is that another question? Or yeah, please,
Yeah,
ID yourself.
I'm Nancy Ferrales, and I'm with the Mobile Technology Association of Michigan. And have you heard of us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Linda Dashent, who started the organization, is doing a tireless job. We're the only nonprofit trade association in the United States that's a full statewide organization. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on the organization and why we kind of feel like we haven't received the support that would be nice to receive.
What does your organization do, real quick?
We are all about mobile technology across every industry, nonprofit trade association, membership-based, and it's just a very, very cool thing. And It's been pretty under the radar.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it's not that high on my radar in the terms of I'd be happy to learn more. I've heard of it, but again, we need to find ways to really say how can we promote it or what value it has. Be happy to connect you with the MEDC and Mike Finney.
Yes, and we have been connected. So,
Terrific, thank you.
can I throw one other thing out? I also have a daughter with Down syndrome, and I'm also heavily involved in that. And when it comes to the education and the technology for pre-5, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in terms of pre-K, we're actually one of the leaders in the country in terms of moving ahead. We created the Office of Great Start a couple of years ago to really focus in on it. But one of the things I'm proud of, this last year's budget and this next year's budget, we're removing the waiting list for preschool. We're going to hopefully have almost 30,000 new kids involved in preschool, providing funding for kids that have a need issue. So we're going to take care of that, get that eliminated, and we're going to be one of the leaders in the country.
Let's take one more comment or question, and then we're going to have to wrap.
Thank you. Governor Snyder, my name's Addie Langford. I'm from Tech Shop Detroit. We're a do-it-yourself fabrication studio in Allen Park. And to sort of dovetail the comment you made about when a job is available, it is actually too late to train someone. And how can we back up into the educational system? So coming back to the educational panel from earlier, I just wanted to let you know and also invite you, and especially Dr. Covington in the education panel, to become a part of an amazing consortium that the Automation Alley Education Committee is building. They're really wanting to pursue that issue. So any other education people in the room who would like to bring higher education, high school education, to really address the issue that not everyone needs to go to college to a 4-year degree program, and how can we get people and parents, which is also a huge issue, is the perception that manufacturing jobs are not enough for their children. So would love to invite you to connect with either Carol Friedman at the Alley or Alicia Green in the Education Committee. And thanks so much. Lifelong Democrat, straight ticket. Felt a little naughty, voted for you. I'm so excited to vote for you again. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to get in trouble, but one more real fast.
Governor Barry Wood, economics journalist in Washington. Why is the pace of job creation in Michigan so slow? Now, I know all the things you've said about Michigan being back, but it's not fast enough. Why?
Well, I'd say that's a national issue that I don't think we're doing that much worse than the rest of the country. In terms of our unemployment rate, one of the things we found that I don't know if you noted is people are coming back in the workforce in Michigan. One of the things that slowed it down is our workforce participation rate is starting to come back up. And I view that as a positive in the sense that people are finding more belief that there is future opportunity. So we've created some pretty good jobs. In our state, we've created a couple 100,000 private sector jobs. And again, that's the focus point, because the way I view it is private sector jobs are what drive the economy to really support the public sector. We've had some reduction in the public sector, but we've had reasonably good job growth on the private sector side. Do I want to see a bit more? Yes. That's looking at the whole nation. We've done better than most states. We're the comeback state, but we've also had people come back in the workforce, which I view as a positive.
Well, thanks so much. Governor, I don't know what party you belong to, but I wish more people belonged to it. And I would like to join it if it existed, but you are really doing great stuff. I wish we had more business leaders with tech experience in government, and the way you think is fantastic. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for the support that you've given to Techonomy, too.
Thank you.
Really good.
Appreciate it, brother.